The political dynasty started emerging after the Philippine Revolution when the First Republic of the Philippines was established. With the decline of Spain's economic power and international prestige in the 19th century, the expansion of British and American influence around the world, and the political current of emergent nationalism among the children of the economically enfranchised bourgeois, the power of the Peninsulares or Spanish-born aristocracy declined propitiously. As Gobernador Silios and Cabeza de Barangay, the former datus, now the Principalia, were changed with the responsibility of collecting tributes from their former subjects. They also selected people who will render forced labor. These arrangements became susceptible to abuse, and many principalia used their position to extort, threaten, and demand excess payments from the people. The Spaniards did not really conquer the entire archipelago on their own. That was impossible. In order to subjugate the peoples of the islands, they enlisted the help of these datus. The Spaniards established reduction, a system where they put the entire populations under one centralized government. It eliminated the barangays that were headed by datus. In exchange for giving up their barangays and encouraging their people to resettle, in the new towns called cabecera, the datus were offered positions in local government as gobernadorcillo and cabeza de barangay. The Spaniards knew that in order to keep the populace under their control, they needed to keep the former datus happy. They were given the status of principalia, a member of the local nobility. The principalia were given houses in prominent location in cabecera, which was either in front or beside the church. Up to now, houses beside or in front of a church are considered prime locations in any community, signifying wealth and prominence of social status. According to Abenales and Amoroso, the Spaniards never wanted to disenfranchise the Indios, so they introduced the concept of land ownership so they can legally buy land from the natives. But the Principalia saw an opportunity in this new idea. They sold and donated of the priors the public lands that were originally tilled by their subjects, effectively enriching themselves and gaining more political capital and favor from the religious orders. Apart from this access, the Principalia enjoyed official benefits and privilege. They were exempted from paying tributes, taxes, or forced labor. Lastly, the status of Principalia was hereditary, including the government position they held. Because of these things, the members of Principalia become powerful, influential, and wealthy politicians who controlled vast tracts of agricultural land. Although it was the Spaniards who inadvertently laid the ground of contemporary political dynasty in the Philippines, it was the Americans who actually formalized it. According to Professor Roland Simbulan of the UP, political dynasties in the Philippines started during the American occupation. They introduced elections to the Philippines but only gave suffrage rights to members of the Principalia. Furthermore, government positions were also limited to Americans and members of the Principalia. This resulted in the widening gap between rich and poor Filipinos, especially when the Principalia working the politics of their own interests. Today, there are many Filipinos political clans who can trace their ancestry to the Principalia who saved during the American colonial period. According to University of London School of Oriental and African Studies in 2016, 74% of elected members of the House of Representatives come from political dynasties. The recent 2019 midterm elections reminded us that although political dynasties are entrenched, they are not permanent. They can also end as long as there are relevant and credible forces that would challenge their status quo.